Satchidanandarupaya Vishvotpatyadihetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadyasya yatonvayaditaratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahmahradaya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Varimridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Ketavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Va Parerishwaraha Sadyo Hrudya Varudya Tetra Kritibihi Shushrushubistatkshanat. Hari Om, and greetings from Niagara Falls. My parents had traveled to Delhi at the end of January, and they were supposed to return in the middle of March. Then the war in Ukraine began, and so airspace got closed down, and their flights became complicated, and now they're going to return at the end of this month. So they've been there for more than a month, more than they were planning to. I was speaking to my mother earlier this week, and I was asking her how she is and all of the people she interacts with, how they are. And she was sharing, this person is struggling in their relationship. That person is struggling in their job. This person has COVID. For that person, living here is hard. And I was sharing with her, living is hard. From the time you're conscious to the time you're unconscious, living is hard. And she shared with a smile, you have to learn how to handle this hardness. And she shared this with a lot of Vedantic insight as someone who's immersed themselves in the Vedanta course and experience as someone who's over 60 years old. You have to learn to handle all that is hard so it's less hard then. Yes. Just think of a ball. Think of a cricket player. For someone like Vivek, if a cricket ball came to me, I would run. I would duck. And even if I did catch the ball, my hands would hurt so much. But for a cricket player, they would run towards that ball, jump in the air, and they would be able to embrace that ball. Yes. And what's fascinating is that same day I spoke to my mother, I was listening to a discourse by Puja Swami Tejomayananda, and he was sharing that living is suffering. And the only medicine to deal with this suffering is to listen to Bhagavan's Katha. That's the only medicine. Like the common saying, pain is mandatory, suffering is optional. Living is painful. But the way to not suffer is to listen to Bhagavan's Katha.
which all of us do steadily, sincerely, this morning we complete our 120 of Vedanta and Bhagavata. The 11th skanda is a transition skanda from Bhagavan Krishna with the name and form to Bhagavan Krishna without a name and form. This skanda begins with Sri Vasudeva wanting to be established in Bhagavan Krishna. He knows Bhagavan Krishna, but is not established in that. This is very much in resonance with our relationship in terms of chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. We know of joy, yet we are not established in joy, hence dhyana. The transition from knowing to being established. And perhaps Sri Vasudeva already had this inclination that Bhagavan Krishna is going away. And some share when Bhagavan Krishna's Nama and Rupa become unmanifest, that initiates the beginning of Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, there is fighting. And we're all privy to that in our own heads, our own homes, undoubtedly society around the world. If we are established in joy, if we're established in Bhagavan Krishna, we don't have to suffer in Kali Yuga. This is the only way. So how to be established? A series of questions and a series of answers. Very potent, which is why we're flowing through this slowly, and we will complete this upadesha, this guidance, in this spiritual year. The first question, what is kshema? What is goodness? Specifically, what is the greatest goodness? The answer, Bhagavata Dharma. To be integrated with Bhagavan. This answer is shared in chapter 2, verses 33 to 43. I'm giving you this reference because it is important for you to read, write, and reflect on all of these verses. I can't share the details of all of these verses in the short time you give me. You all put too much pressure on me. So there's your further reading, writing, and reflecting. In essence, how does one live this answer? All that you do for Bhagavan. The evolution of this will be, it won't just be all that you do is for Bhagavan, all that you are is Bhagavan. From doing to being. Question 2. What is linga? Linga means what are the characteristics of those who are doing and being Bhagavan. They have followed and followed through on Bhagavata Dharma. The answer, Bhagavata Bhava. Bhagavata, Bhava, they feel Bhagwan inside and outside. They feel Bhagwan unconditionally. These answers are shared in chapter 2, verses 45 to 55. 45 to 55. How we can live this. I know many of you well, you know me well. A lot of us are committed to Dhamma, which means rituals, in terms of offering puja, offering prasada, and so on. That is important. But I'm challenging you to evolve your sadhana, your practice, from Dhamma to Dhyana. Shift some of your time and energy from rituals to contemplation. That way, you don't just feel Bhagwan is in a murti, but you feel him inside of you more. Question 3. What is Maya? What is Maya? The answer, Bhagavata Sarja. Bhagavata Sarja, and I will explain. This answer is given in chapter 3, verses 3 to 16. A longer answer. We had flowed through that in our last class. Now let me explain this word, sarja. Sasarjo chavachan yadyaha. Opening this up, Sa means Bhagwan. Bhagwan Narayana, Bhagwan Krishna. Sarja means create, project. Create, project what? Ucha. Ucha means that which is higher. And avachani, that which is lower. Where did all of this come from again? Adyaha came from the original being. I tend to use the word original parent so that it's more personal. Maya is Bhagavata Sarja. Maya is creation and all that comes with creation. Emerging, existing, ending. Remember though, this creation came from Sa, came from Bhagwan. This question about what is Maya seems out of line with Bhagavata Dharma, Bhagavata Bhava. Why this question is asked is because Raja Nimi knows that Maya belongs to Bhagwan. That's why this question is asked. It is not so much about Maya, but the fact that Maya belongs to Bhagwan. That insight is to be acknowledged. Sharing more. When we are used by creation, that is known as avidya maya. Creation is making us forgetful of Bhagwan. When we use creation, and I don't mean this in a capitalistic way, I mean this in the sense that we're living in harmony with creation, that is known as Vidya Maya. Creation is helping me to remember this is an expression of Bhagavan. Are we clear? We are. An example of this is if you're wearing a costume, suppose you're acting as a cricket player, and you forget that this is a costume and that you're playing a role, then eventually you feel stuck. You feel miserable. If you remember this is a costume, this is a role, then you feel free. You feel cheerful. Now, everything you've ever worn, starting with the ego, intellect, these clothes, they're all a costume. You're playing a role as a student, as a social worker, as a relative. Feel free. Feel cheerful. Maya is that which shows us what is not. Shows us what is not. Like magic, correct? Magic is smoke and mirrors. Magic is showing us what is not. It is sleight of hand. And for the one who is out of control, they are deceived. But the one who's directing themselves, they are using creation, utilizing this opportunity, then they are not deceived. I've shared with all of you in a lighter way. When you know the illusion, it is entertaining. Like a hologram, that's entertaining. A rainbow is entertaining. An eclipse is entertaining. Wear protective eyewear though, okay? Unlike certain world leaders who don't wear protective eyewear, you should. But if you believe the illusion, that's delusion then. You get scared. You feel harmed. Final practical thought before we continue to question 4. When one practices giving regularly, resources, time, and effort, tan, man, and dhan, then slowly and steadily one comes to realize, what are they actually giving? This never belonged to them. Who is actually giving? That there's no opportunity for doership. That regular giving leads to this realization. Because Maya, and this is mostly defined from Western teachers, Maya is also known as materialism, where one is used by creation. So what to do? Keep on giving. We continue. The 11th skanda, we're still in the 3rd adhyaya, the 17th shloka. 3:17, Raja Nimi, though he's already enlightened, he is asking questions on how to be established in Bhagavan Krishna or joy. Has anyone figured out then why is he asking these questions? He's asking for us. That's what enlightened beings do. They're united with all beings, past, present, and future. They are the ones who engage in seva that lasts for yugas, not days or weeks, but lifetimes. The answer, or whom he's asking to, is Rishi Prabuddha. The fourth of the, of the Navayogis, Rishi Prabuddha. Yataitam Aishwarim Mayam Dustaram Akritatmabihi Tarantyajastula Dhiyaha Maharsha Idamuchatam. Yataitam. That. What is that? Aishwarim Maya. Maya, which we just learned about, whom does it belong to? Aishwarya, here referring to Bhagavan. Dustaram. It is difficult to cross, to be freed of Maya, especially for Akritatmabihi, for one who is out of control, one who is indisciplined. Taranti anjasa stula diyaha. Taranti, to cross over. Anjasaha, easily. Stula diyaha, for the ones who are dull. He's referring to himself. If an enlightened one has a dull intellect, I don't think there's a scale to describe someone like me then. Maharshaha idam uchatam. Rajanimi spoke this to the rishi. Question is clear? Question 3, what is Maya? Question 4, what is Taranti? Taranti, how to be freed of Maya. Taranti technically means to cross. To be freed of Maya feels more comprehensive. That's question 4. The answer, Rishi Prabuddha, one who is woken up and can awaken others. The answer is given from verses 18 to 33. I know you're writing all of this down because I know after class, you go into your books and you read and write and reflect and make notes, and you have a comparative study with what I'm sharing. So that's why I'm giving you these verses, 18 to 33. Verses 18 to 20 are not a direct answer, but rather a continuation of why we get stuck in Maya. The direct answer comes in verse 21, which I'm reading to you. Verse 21. Tasmad gurum prapadyeta jignasu shreya uttamam shabde pare cha nishnatam brahman yupashamashrayam. Tasmat, being stuck in Maya, therefore, what one should do to taranti, gurum prapadyeta, prostrate, surrender to your guru. And in doing so, jignasuhu shreya uttamam, seek, yearn for shreya, that which is uttamam. These words are very much similar to kshema, what is the goodness that is the greatest. But who is one's guru? Shabde parecha nishnatham. They are established in Shabde, means the Veda. Shared more simply, they are knowledgeable. And not just knowledgeable in a scholarly sense, they can help us to know. So they're communicative. Also, Brahmani Upashama Ashrayam, they're established in Brahman. Ashrayam, they have dedicated themselves to Upashama, to being quiet and still and silent. So they're established in experience, established in knowledge, and they're the ones who can guide us. What is Taranti? That is the question. And the answer is Prapadyeta. Prapadyeta, surrender. I shall elaborate now, focusing on making this practical. I already told you that there's many verses that share this answer. I'm going to try to be brief. That itself is Maya, is me trying to be brief, but I try. I really do try. Verses 18 to 20, Rishi Prabuddha shares with Raja Nimi how a typical person lives. A typical person lives trying to create joy. They're trying to create joy, which means they're extrovert. And that's why they're stuck in Maya. Then he goes on to share, starting in verse 21, become the guru. Not in name and form, but rather in guna. What we try to do is become the guru in name and form, but not the guna. So become the guru. And this is facilitated by feeling they are your Ishta Atma. Instead of feeling that the ego lives inside of you, feel that your guru lives inside of you. If you all felt that Pujya Swami Chinmaya lived in your mind, you would think very differently. Correct? Imagine, instead of Google watching you through your Google Home and Google Chrome, that Pujya Swami Chinmaya was watching you, you would eat very differently. You would speak very differently, correct? And to also feel that your guru is your Ishta Devata. So she is inside of you, she is outside of you. That's how one becomes the guru in terms of guna, qualities. Other highlights are, from the guru, one is to learn Bhagavata Dharma. A guru is one who's following and has followed through with Bhagavata Dharma, so they can guide us to do the same. Shared differently, if there is bhakti, then there's not bandha. Those are antonyms. If there's devotion, then there cannot be delusion. And that's the importance of the word prapadyeta. In Bhagavad Gita, the word is prapadyante. Prapadyante, we covered this in chapter 4. It means to be at the feet of one's guide. And I even described to all of you how you should be at their feet. One hand you should put on the top of their feet and one hand underneath their feet. And the reason for this, the hand on top is if they try to leave, you don't allow them to leave. The hand underneath is if you try to leave, they don't allow you to leave. Do you remember earlier I described tying Bhagavan Krishna in your heart with devotion? Now it's just expressed in a different way. When you meet your Sadguru, don't do this physically. You will hurt them, number one. Number two, you will get hurt. And a beautiful visualization of this is, imagine Bhagwan is a fisher person. And Bhagwan has this net that is Maya. And all of us are fish. And Bhagwan throws this net. Now you're all thinking, why? Answer, Mary Marzi. She's just having fun. And all of these fish are being trapped other than the ones that are near her feet. Prapadyeta, prapadyante, correct? Factually, those fish are not caught. What else is shared? The word first is used. The first practice or sadhana one is to engage in is to change their sangha. Change their sangha, which means that one has to practice independence from sense objects and dependence on sat, as in satsanga. That's the sangha that needs to change. To be less indulgent and to be more introspective. In Puja Swami Tejomayananda's commentary, there's a lovely paragraph shared by Swami Akhandananda. And he shares that one sadhana to not be stuck intellectually, feel a oneness. Mentally, feel equality. Physically, feel independence. So physically, as I interact with stuff, be independent. Mentally, as I'm interacting with your emotions, equality. That I don't like this person, I don't dislike this person. Intellectually, a oneness with animals and plants and stones. Change one's sangha from investing in sense objects. Another highlight, and there's a lot of content. The majority of these verses are about virtue development. To become kinder, to become more generous, and so on. Two unique virtues that I've come across are, one is aniketatam. Aniketatam means to not have a home. Niketa means home, like Shanti Niketa. Aniketa, to not have a home. And if you're reflecting on this, that means you feel everywhere is your home. You feel comfortable in every context. Now that's only possible if you're not attached to a specific niketa, correct? If I keep on investing in making my home more comfortable, as soon as I leave my home, I'm going to feel uncomfortable. And another lovely virtue, anindam anyatra. Anindam anyatra. Anyatra means others. Anindam to not criticize others. In this context, what is specifically shared, not to criticize others, darshanas, which means religions. To not criticize others' religions. But naturally, this should be broadened to not criticize others' perspectives. Naturally, one becomes more accepting then. A little bit more. In verse 30, paraspara anukatanam pavanam bhagavat yashaha. How does one become free of Maya? Paraspara. Mutually anukatanam. We should share with each other. Pavana, that which purifies. What purifies? Bhagavat yashaha. The stories and glories of Bhagavad. See how we're doing this? And what will be the phala? Mitaha ratihi. Together, we will rejoice. Mitaha tushtihi. Together, we will feel content. Anuvrittihi mitaha atmanaha. Together, we will be relieved of dukkha. How I began was, the only way not to suffer is through Bhagwan's katha. And I know most of you think I make all of this up, but that's why I reference specific verses. So you have a little bit of faith in what I'm sharing. The essential points from all of these verses is, if you only identify as a bhakta, that means you will only be holding on to Bhagwan, in which case what comes from Bhagwan will not touch you. If your only identification is of a bhakta, you don't have a gender, you don't have a name, you don't have a social status. Who are you? Bhakta. Who am I? Bhakta. Who are we? Bhaktaha. That's our only identification. Then we're all right beside Bhagwan. What can happen to us? Nothing can happen to Bhagwan, so nothing can happen to us. What an awesome way to live. And now a hint is given about the next question. See, Raja Nimi is enlightened and clever. Every time an answer is given, he picks a part of that answer to ask another question, and another question, and another question. Like our children, we took them for an Easter egg hunt a couple of days ago. Yesterday, our children went into that bag with their Easter eggs and said, we're just going to put it outside of our room and we'll eat it before we go to sleep. See that trail that is left by them. And then when we went to go to bed, they were magically gone. So Rajanini also is taking each answer and creating another question. And here's the hint. Narayana paraha maya. Anjas tarati dustaram paraha. The one who makes Narayana the highest or purpose or priority, anjas, easily, tarati, they cross.